First thing I want to talk about is placing the VRS in your gear. At the start of your shift, you're going to sign one out and you're going to place it in your right side pants pocket. Regardless of whether you're right or left-handed, all our systems are set up for right side deployment, so it has to go in that right pants pocket. Before I put it in position though, I want to double check that auxiliary carabiner. I want to make sure that the twist lock is in the open position and it's seated tight against that little storage pin. Once you confirm that, then you can put it back in place. As far as the orientation in your pocket, you're going to want the flash hook toward your body, toward the front of the pocket. That orientates that auxiliary carabiner to the outside back corner of your pocket. Once I have the system in place, I want to push down the hardware as much as I can. I'm going to double check that bend or bite coming off the auxiliary carabiner. Remember, the glow pocket goes on an angle. I want the top of the rope to the top of the pocket with that bend going to the outside corner. That way when I open up the flap and I want to get to it, it's easily accessible. But I want it segregated away from the flash. I'm going to push down the F4 and the system carabiner as low as possible, because the highest point of my hardware should be the top of my flash hook. That way, when I reach inside my pants pocket, that's the first thing I want to grab. Now, as far as setting up the carabiner, remember we have two options for setup. Independent, or a system that is not pre-attached to your belt, or integrated, a system that is pre-attached to your belt or harness. If I'm going to go with an independent setup, one that is not pre-attached to my belt or harness, I'm going to double check that system carabiner. Remember, that's skull and crossbones on both sides, but just double check that it's easily opened. And I'm going to push it down. You're going to see that this carabiner freely spins with that captive eye. I like to rotate it to the outside. It keeps it a little farther away from the flash. And again, I'm going to compress it down. I'm going to lay my flap over the top. If I'm going to be setting my system up to be integrated or pre-attached to my belt or harness, you will end up rotating this carabiner to the front corner. You will connect your lanyard and you'll lock off the gate to make sure that that lanyard is captured. Remember, this is a triple action carabiner. Once it's locked, I got to push up or down, rotate, and it's in the storage position. Okay, system is set up now to be independent or not pre-attached. If I want it connected, connect the lanyard, lock it off, and confirm. The lanyard coming out, you basically fold the flap over, and you're going to see this more after you go through harness and belt options, but your lanyard's going to come down to that corner and your flap's going to be laying over the top and everything's going to be concealed. That's how you store your system. These are the three current belt and harness options that we have in the department. On the left is the Escape utility belt with a double locking buckle. You have two options for wearing this belt. One is on the outside of your turnout coat, and the second is routing it through the belt loops of your turnout pants. In the middle is the Cobra buckle belt. This is a lighter weight, lower profile version of the Escape utility belt. It's made from 2-inch Kevlar web and has the lower profile, lightweight, streamlined Cobra buckle. The only option for this setup is to route it through the belt loops of your turnout pants. On the right is the integrated webbing harness made from 1-inch tubular webbing. This is worn in between the outer shell and inner liner of your pants. Let's take a look at how all three are worn and the options for attaching your system. Option number one is wearing your escape belt on the outside of your turnout coat. This is probably the most popular method on the department currently, but it only works when you're using an independent or non-pre-attached system. Because it's worn on the outside of your coat and your coat's a completely separate component of your pants, there's no way of pre-attaching to your system with this configuration. However, the plus is it doesn't matter on what side I have the main connection ring and what side I have the buckle. If you're more comfortable having the buckle on your right side and the connection ring on your left, you can do that. There are a few things though that you need to be aware of. One is the belt needs to be properly sized. It needs to be tight, but not too tight. And I like to tell personnel one of the best indicators for that, for proper sizing, is you should be able to insert the handle of a tool, typically your axe, between your belt and your body. Now the belt can be tighter than this, but you definitely don't want it any looser. The next thing that I recommend is that when you wear the belt, you keep the main connection ring center or midline in your body. Even though the manufacturer designates that this fixed D-ring is the attachment point or should be the attachment point for your escape system, I'm not a fan of that for a few reasons. First of all, this D-ring is a lot smaller than the main connection ring of your belt. Second, it's perpendicular to your belt. So when you make the connection here, it torques the DCD in F4 and doesn't put it in a neutral position or neutral orientation, so it makes it more difficult to operate. Second, you look at your floating equipment ring, it's in close proximity to this D-ring. So you could easily mess up which one you hook up to. This ring flips back and forth, so besides its size, it can be more difficult to hook up to. The main connection ring falls on the normal plane of your belt, and because it's bigger, and when you fasten your SCBA waist strap in conjunction with it properly, which I'll talk about next, it makes it very easy for you to connect up the system carabiner of your F4 to it. And then it orientates that F4 in a nice neutral position, making it very easy to operate. And I'm going to show you the difference between these two setups. So make sure that your belt is sized tightly, where it's comfortable, and that you keep this main connection ring in the center. And this is where you're going to hook your system up. The next thing you need to be aware of is your SCBA waist strap and how it should be positioned in relation to your escape belt. When I'm connecting my SCBA waist strap, I want to fasten it above my escape or utility belt. So the buckle of the SCBA waist strap should be above the buckle and main ring of the escape belt. And that's for two reasons. One, when you tighten up your waist strap, and your waist strap should end up being tighter than your escape belt, what it's going to end up doing, because your escape belt's a little looser, again, so you can still get a tool between your belt and your body, it's going to deflect that main attachment ring down. And this is where you're going to hook up to, the top portion of this ring. Second, it keeps this ring unobstructed. You can see it compresses the face of my turnout coat tight to my body, and it keeps this ring easily accessible for that independent or non-pre-attached setup. And then third, because the belt is looser and because it's around your waist and not on your hips, the only padding you have is your coat. Everything else is all soft tissue. It's just your abdominals. So when you hang from an escape belt that's around your waist, it can be very uncomfortable. And if this belt really rides up to your lower portion of your rib cage, it can be extremely uncomfortable. So having your SCBA waist strap fastened above it prevents your belt or minimizes how much your belt's going to ride up once you load it. So this is a proper configuration. You're going to take your right hand, you're going to open the flap of your pants pocket, you're going to reach across your body, and you're going to grab the hook and you're going to pull it out. That automatically puts the hook in your left hand, which is going to be our standard deployment. You're going to find the system carabiner, you're going to use your left hand. You got the hook in your left hand, you're going to use that same left hand without letting go of the hook. You're going to pull the attachment ring down. You're going to do that, what we talk about, swoop and scoop, okay? I'm opening up the gate with my right thumb. I'm hooking the top of that main attachment ring, and then I'm giving a little flick to the base of the carabiner. My hand's right here to grab the break end of the rope, punch out. We'll talk about that in bailout techniques, and the hook's automatically in my left hand. And if you can see this, this orientates everything in a nice neutral plane. Release lever's on my left. I can easily grab the break end of the rope, and that's why we want to connect up to this ring versus the fixed D-ring. Let me show you the orientation on the designated D-ring. I'm coming in, remember, because this is flip-flopping around, and these are close, I might inadvertently hook up into the wrong one. So it's going to be a tougher hookup. I hook in here, as I lock off, you can see how, because everything's perpendicular, now the release lever isn't in that nice neutral plane. You can torque the device and twist it to get it in the proper position, but it doesn't situate nearly as nicely as when you connect up to this ring. And remember, because I have a double locking buckle here, I can still safely attach up to this ring. It's strong enough, and with this double locking buckle, I don't have to worry about it being released by my system carabiner. It's definitely a safe attachment point. It's what I recommend. You're gonna have to play around yourself and see what you prefer, but I think most personnel will like this setup better and this connection point better.